What is going on YouTube? Hit it back making another brand new Crypto TV episode. In today's video, we're going to be looking at Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, as well as XRP to US dollar. We're also going to be looking at obviously the current coin market cap and DueDEX. And specifically in today's episode, as you guys saw in the title, I want to discuss the possibilities that this run that we could be seeing on practically all of the cryptocurrencies, this small correction to the downside, could be in relative terms a bear trap. And the reason that we're starting to see this could lead us into potentially some higher movements leading towards the future. So I wouldn't get too worried just now. We'll discuss this a little bit later on in today's episode. But you guys can clearly see that we did break bearish slightly from this massive uptrend that we had here. We hit the resistance and we fell ever so slightly, but you'll notice we didn't actually continue to topple over down to the projected bottoms, closer to 33 for Litecoin and even lower levels for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So some very interesting topics to discuss in today's episode. Otherwise, if you guys are new to the channel, definitely make sure to subscribe, turn on post notifications, leave a giant thumbs help out that YouTube algorithm, and remember to follow me on Twitter at CryptoVOfficial. This way we can stay, in close contact in relevant terms towards the market right now, or some general conversations. If you guys want to, speak to me about pretty much anything, definitely let me know. DM me on Twitter or just leave a comment on my board. Otherwise, let's jump into today's episode. So guys, yesterday you guys noticed that the video that we discussed was in relevance to the second chance opportunity that we're seeing on a lot of the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Litecoin. You guys can see that we did break bearish from the massive uptrend that we had, and you guys can immediately see that after bottoming out, it looks like we immediately corrected back up to the upside, retesting that previous resistance that we had. This is of interest to me because we were discussing that if we broke bearish here, it would be a nice short, expecting to see an immediate fall all the way to the downside. Obviously, if you did short this resistance right here, you could have profited off of the bottom right here, lowering your stop loss, to basically sell you out and lock in those profits. But I do want to discuss the possibilities of this bear trap formation that we're starting to see on the market. Now, just to jump into things to get a general summary, you guys can see we did take a slight tumble, but we're just kind of consolidating outwards. You'll notice that these are acting independently compared to XRP, so we will discuss XRP differently than the other cryptocurrencies that we do have to talk about today. So let's just jump right into things. I want to start off with Bitcoin and Litecoin, and then for those of you interested in XRP, we will speak about XRP directly after, so definitely make sure to continue watching. So let's start off with Litecoin in relevance to this uptrend that we had started right here back in March, mid-March of 2020. You can see the uptrend. We are looking at this on the 4-hour. We started to swing back upwards and we hit the high-low middle moving average as well as this resistance here, and obviously you guys can tell we broke bearish, taking a small tumble, very, 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 very small tumble. We dropped, I would start it off here, about 10%, and if you even wanted to consider from the point of breakout, about 6.79%. Really nothing to be too worried about, and you can see we immediately corrected back to the upside. And I wanted to talk about the possibilities of a bear trap. So I pulled up the bear trap and strategies for this on Google, and I wanted to show you guys previous movements that have happened where a bear trap has formed and how this could be what we're starting to see now. So you guys can clearly see we have this uptrend that started here, very similar to Litecoin and Bitcoin, the uptrend right here, and then we had our break to the downside, very similar to the bear trap formation. We had a bear trap movement right here, we fell, and now we could be consolidating up once again. And even if we are at this point right here where we had this short squeeze with this resistance, because the difference between this is there was no resistance that we were retesting, but notice here we did have that resistance, and that is what we actually hit. We do have a resistance here, and then we fell. So we may actually be at the end. We may be looking at this from this area right here, this area of resistance where we broke bearish, but notice immediately after the bear trap happened, we started to once again head back to the upside. So that's the possibilities that we have to consider. This may not actually be the potentials of falling even lower to $33. Obviously, that is still a possibility, but when you compare this to a bear trap, you may want to consider that this may be the bottom and we may start to eventually, head up higher. We do have to consider the fact that we have still been setting these higher lows, which is definitely a great sign, and that could lead us to potentially moving up to higher levels very, very, very soon. So obviously all of these charts and trades that I do plan on putting forward are linked in my Patreon. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody that is supporting me on Patreon. The link is in the description, but that is where you guys can find all of my trades, shorts, long positions, as well as leverage for all the cryptocurrencies, XRP, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever you have an interest in. So definitely make sure to help out the channel and check that out, and also, help yourself yourself with these trades. Now, so that is the possibilities that we could be seeing. Obviously, we did have the bottom. We started to correct back up, and there's a good chance we may continue to, continue on our bullish cycle to the upside. Obviously, we're going to face some difficulties with this area right here, the middle moving average and the $41 and $39 resistance levels, but there is a chance that we could break through here and continue on this bear trap movement to another uptrend. Same thing applies with Bitcoin. Obviously, we don't have the immediate consolidation to the upside like we saw here. Bitcoin kind of bottomed out. We broke bearish from this uptrend right here as we hit resistance. You got sandwiched in here on the 4-hour, and then we broke to the downside, and now we're consolidating out once again. Notice we're fairly low on the relative strength indicator, so that does give me reason to believe we may see some more consolidation and then eventually retest a swing to the upside. Obviously, we're using this as a support, and I do think that if we end up breaking bearish through here, we're going to expect to see a drop all the way down to $5,500. But if we can hold out and retest this again, there is a chance we could switch long, flip long, retest these resistances, and continue the uptrend that we're seeing. Because like I said before, we are still having these higher lows being retested. Obviously, we might not want to count this one, but if we count these are higher lows, and that is a bullish movement and a bullish thing that is happening on these cryptocurrencies. So I do want to discuss Ethereum. This coin looks, in my eyes, to be one of those that is still fairly behind Litecoin and Bitcoin. Like, it hasn't really seen its movement just yet. Yes, we did retest resistance here, but we ultimately just consolidated ever so slightly down to the next support, and there's a good chance we'll see more consolidation with this coin, retesting obviously this resistance once again. And if we can break bullish through this area right here, the second I think we flip long outside of the downtrend and above the I would honestly say $140 resistance, I really do think we are going to spring all the way back up to $100 to $180 to $190. Anywhere in between that looks fairly okay. Now, to wrap up the cryptos with XRP before we jump into the DueDEX charts, XRP looks great. You can clearly see that there is an uptrend forming on this coin right here. We have this uptrend. Obviously, we do start to see a little bit of a resistance line that we're retesting. As I expand this outwards, you can see exactly what it is that I'm referring to. This looks to be even earlier in relevance to Litecoin, which broke bearish, and Bitcoin, which broke bearish from its uptrend. XRP looks like it hasn't even, made that decision yet. Obviously, there is a crap ton of consolidation right now, a lot of uptrend, a lot of resistance, this high-low middle moving average, and obviously this is going to break any second now on XRP. We've seen the movements in Litecoin and Bitcoin, and if these if this plays out like those cryptos did, there's a chance we could fall back down to the 16-cent support. Or if we can consolidate this and use this uptrend as a means of support, we could ultimately break bullish and, expect to see that movement to the upside. Obviously, the only thing we can really do right now is just set up positions to conservative trade. Instead of taking a random leap and stab in the dark, we would basically set up positions, a buying long above 7.179 and a short below. I would honestly suggest anywhere below 0.169, shorting it all the way down to, I would say, 16 to 14 cents, and lowering your stop loss as we continue there, so you lock in profits. But that's pretty much going to cover these cryptos. It was quite quick. I wanted to talk about all those for you. And now I do want to discuss the DueDEX charts right here. So you can see on DueDEX, this is the website that I use for trading cryptocurrency. Obviously, it is linked in the description down below. I really, really, really like the layout and the way you can use DueDEX's platform. It's Bitcoin in and Bitcoin out, which is great. You can literally just transfer it to an exchange and then turn it into US dollars. But as of right now, it gives you the opportunity to short. And what we're looking at right now is the possibilities that Bitcoin may continue to flip bearish if this bear trap isn't, existent, and we could eventually fall lower. Obviously, we're retesting this previous support that we have right here, and if we end up breaking below here and closing a candle below here, we could, really switch bearish and fall all the way down to $5,000. So we do have to pay a close attention and a close eye on this market right now. I even have and discussed before the $5,500 resistance or support right now that Bitcoin could fall down to if it cannot stay above its support right here. Honestly, there are some movements right now that are just really up in the air but we do have to consider the possibilities of a bear trap being formed right here. We have the consolidation. Now we need the sideways trades, and then we could potentially start to swing to the upside right now. But otherwise, guys, you can even see that these are all higher lows being formed. 1, 2, 3. I mean, yes, we do have this one, but if we continue it, this is about even with the previous one, and they do ultimately continue to head up higher. So there is still those higher lows being formed. I know they are slightly broken, so it is kind of hard to really say that's something to go off of. You clearly see that this is a higher low than the past, but ultimately what I'm saying is we do have this bear trap forming. So there could be the possibilities that after the correction, we see the consolidation and then we start the new uptrend higher. But definitely let me know in the comments what you think. If you are new to the channel, definitely make sure to subscribe, turn on post notifications, leave a giant thumbs up, follow me on Twitter, CryptoVofficial, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode. Peace.